Sofia's wicked stepmother and biological father threw her out at 15 when she became pregnant. Years later, the same people begged at her feet, and she smiled. The sun hadn't yet risen over the red hills of Nusulima, but Sofia was already awake, her body stiff from sleeping on a thin mat in the corner of the kitchen, where the goats sometimes wandered in at night. The air was thick with the smell of last night's burnt porridge and the sourness of neglect. At 15, Sofia carried the weight of a woman twice her age, her ribs pressed against her skin like the ridges of a dried-up riverbed. Her once bright eyes, her mother used to say they sparkled like millet seeds in sunlight, were now sunken, shadowed by exhaustion and hunger. She rose quietly, her bare feet pressing into the cold, dirt-packed floor. Her dress, once a vibrant green her mother had stitched by hand, was now faded, torn at the hem, and patched with mismatched cloth. Kathy was already awake. She sat on a wooden stool, chewing roasted groundnuts, her two sons, Tendai and Munyaradzi, both younger than Sofia, laughing as they played with toy cars made of wire. "Sofia!" Kathy snapped, tossing the nutshells at her. "Get the water." "The goats need washing, the floor needs scrubbing, and don't think I won't beat you if the house isn't spotless by sunrise." Sofia didn't answer. She never did. Words were dangerous in this house. A single sigh, a delayed reply. Anything could bring the switch down on her back. She grabbed the heavy clay pots and walked the 2 kilometers to the river, her shoulders hunched under the weight of expectation and abuse. Every morning she made this journey. Every evening she returned, only to be sent out again for firewood or to wash Kathy's clothes in the stream, her fingers pruned and cracked from the cold. Back at home, Kathy and the boys ate sadza with stew, thick, steaming, rich with meat. The smell filled the house like a cruel joke. Sofia stood in the doorway, her stomach twisting. "You want to eat?" Kathy sneered, tearing a piece of meat with her fingers. "Then beg like a dog." Tendai laughed. Munyaradzi threw a bone at Sofia's feet. "No," Kathy said, a slow, venomous smile spreading. "She doesn't deserve meat." "Give her the crumbs," and with a flick of her wrist, she tossed the leftover crusts of bread onto the floor, blackened, hard, mixed with dirt. Sofia stared. Her throat closed. But hunger is a master of humiliation. Slowly, silently, she knelt, and picked up the crumbs. One by one. She ate them standing, her back to the wall, her eyes on the floor, as Kathy laughed and the boys clapped like it was a game. At school, it hadn't always been like this. Once, Sofia was the brightest in her class. She could recite poetry in Shoshona and English. She solved math problems faster than the boys. Her teacher, Madam Cheeto, used to say, "This girl will wear a university gown one day." But that was before her mother died. Before Kathy came. Before the chores stole her nights and the hunger stole her focus. Now she arrived late. Always. Her uniform was stained, her hair uncombed. She fell asleep in class, her head drooping over her notebook. Once she fainted during a test. The nurse said, "She's malnourished." She needs food, not a textbook. But when Madame Cheeto visited the house to speak with Andrew, Kathy played the saint. "Oh, madam, Sofia's so lazy. She refuses to help at home. She sneaks out at night. What can I do? I'm not her real mother." Andrew sat in silence, puffing his pipe, nodding. He didn't see the bruises on Sofia's arms, didn't hear the sobs behind the kitchen wall, didn't know she studied by moonlight, using a candle stub she hid in a tin can. When her grades fell, from top of the class to failing every subject, the school sent a final notice. Sofia Moyo must pay outstanding fees or withdraw. Kathy laughed. "We're not wasting money on a girl who'll just run off with a shepherd." And just like that, Sofia's books were taken. Her uniform handed to a cousin, her dreams folded and buried like her mother's shawl. Now she worked from dawn to dusk. She milked the goats Kathy owned but never let her drink from. She weeded the garden while Kathy sipped tea in the shade. She washed the boys' clothes, even when her hands bled from the lye soap. And at night, when the house was quiet, she sat by the back wall and cried, softly, so no one would hear. The River Mwana flowed like a silver thread through the heart of Nsulima, winding between reeds and smooth stones. Its voice a constant murmur beneath the cries of kingfishers and the rustle of palm leaves. It was here, every morning before the sun claimed the sky, that Sofia came, alone, silent, burdened. Her clay pots clinked against each other as she walked, her thin arms trembling under their weight. Her feet, cracked and calloused, knew every stone on the path. She didn't look up, not at the birds, not at the children playing downstream, not even at the willow tree where lovers once whispered secrets. She came only to fetch water, to return, to disappear. But one morning, someone was waiting. He stood by the bank, shirtless, his skin the color of roasted mahogany, sweat glistening on his shoulders from tending his flock. His name was David, a shepherd from the neighboring hillside, known for his quiet strength and a smile that could melt the dry season. He watched her kneel, her hands shaking as she filled the first pot. He saw the way she flinched when a bird startled nearby, the way her breath hitched, like she was used to being struck. Without a word, he stepped forward. "Let me help you carry that," he said gently. Sofia froze. Then without looking at him, she shook her head. No. Her voice was barely a whisper, dry as the dust on the path. David didn't push. He stepped back. But he didn't leave. The next morning he was there again. And the next. Each day he greeted her with a soft, "Good morning, sister," or a small joke about the goats that kept escaping into the maize field. Each day Sofia ignored him. She didn't smile, didn't answer, just filled her pots and walked away, faster, as if he were a storm cloud chasing her. But David was patient. Like the river, he wore down resistance not with force, but with persistence. On the 7th morning, as Sofia struggled to lift the second pot onto her head, her legs wobbling, David stepped in. "You don't have to carry it all alone," he said, already lifting the heavier pot. "I can do it," she snapped, but her voice cracked with exhaustion. "I know you can," he said, holding the pot steady. "But you don't have to always." Their eyes met for the first time. Hers were guarded, full of shadows. His were warm, like embers in the dark. She pulled away. But when she turned to leave, he walked beside her. Not too close, not too far, carrying the heavy pot, following the path until they reached the edge of her village, where the trees thickened and no one from her house could see. There, he set it down. "Tomorrow," he said, "I'll be by the big fig tree. Even if you don't speak, I'll know you heard me." And he left. The next morning she came later, almost hoping he wouldn't be there. He was. And the morning after that, she came at her usual time. He was there. And the morning after that, when he said, "The goats broke into old Madame Dube's garden again." She chased them with a broom like a warrior queen. Sofia's lips twitched. Just once. A flicker. Like a flame catching in the wind. David saw it. He grinned. Was that a smile? I think it was. She looked away quickly, but her shoulders weren't so stiff. And when he reached to take the pot, she didn't pull back. From then on, it became their rhythm. Every morning, the river, the quiet words, the growing laughter, the shared silence that no longer felt heavy. And always, David walked with her. Just far enough to avoid gossip, close enough to say, "You are not alone." He carried her water, And slowly, without her even realizing it, he helped her carry her pain. The mango tree in the backyard was in full bloom, golden fruit hanging like promises in the warm air. But inside the house, the air was thick with venom. It started with a whisper. Kathy had been watching Sofia for weeks. Her slow walk, the way she sometimes clutched her stomach when she thought no one saw, the way her once tight dress now strained at the seams. And then one morning, Sofia doubled over behind the kitchen, retching into the dirt. Kathy didn't rush to help. She smiled. That night she lit the paraffin lamp, sat beside Andrew, and began her poison. "She's been meeting that shepherd boy at the river," she hissed, her voice like a snake in the dark. "Every day. And now she's carrying his child, a bastard." A shame to your blood, Andrew stirred, his face hardening. "Are you sure?" "Look at her," Kathy snapped. "Her belly is swelling like a water gourd." "And she's only 16. That boy has ruined her. He's stolen her innocence, Andrew. He's turned your daughter into a village joke." She leaned closer, her eyes gleaming. "You remember what your brother said? When a girl brings shame, she must be cast out. Or the curse spreads to the whole family." Andrew didn't speak. But his silence was agreement. The next morning, Sofia returned from the river, unaware that her world was about to collapse. She entered the yard to find her father and stepmother standing over a pile of her belongings, her school books, her mother's faded green dress, her small wooden comb, her only pair of sandals, tossed like trash into the dirt. "What?" she whispered. "You filthy girl!" Kathy shrieked, stepping forward. "You've shamed this house. You've brought a bastard into my home." Sofia's breath caught. I didn't. Don't lie to me." Kathy slapped her across the face. The crack echoed like thunder. "You think I didn't see you sneaking off to that boy? You think I didn't know you were spreading your legs like a common street girl?" Sofia staggered back, her hand on her cheek, tears welling. "David loves me. He wants to marry me. Marry?" Andrew roared, his voice trembling with rage, or shame. "You think I'll let my daughter marry a herd boy? A nobody? You've thrown away your future, your dignity for mud and goats?" He kicked her school bag into the dust. "You were never grateful. Always sullen. Always looking at me like I murdered your mother." "I never said that," Sofia cried, her voice breaking. "I only wanted—" "You wanted nothing but trouble." Kathy spat. "You've brought this on yourself. You're no daughter of his. You're a curse. A demon seed." Andrew turned away. "Get out. Take your shame and go. You're no longer my child." Sofia stood frozen, her heart pounded like a trapped bird. "Baba, please, I'm still your daughter. I didn't plan this, but I won't run from it. Just let me stay. I'll work. Out!" Andrew bellowed, grabbing her arm and dragging her toward the gate. "You are dead to me." Kathy threw her clothes after her, books torn, dress ripped, sandals flung into the thorn bush. "Don't come back! Don't even look at this house. You are nothing." Sofia fell to her knees in the dust, clutching the tattered pieces of her life. The sun beat down. The wind carried the laughter of Tendai and Munyaradzi from the porch. And then, silence. The gate slammed shut. She was alone, a girl with a child growing inside her. No home, no food, no father. Only the weight of rejection pressing on her chest like a stone. And still, she did not scream. She did not curse. She simply rose. And with her mother's old dress wrapped in her arms, and one hand on her belly, she began to walk. Toward the river. Toward hope. Toward the only person who had ever said, "You are not alone." The world had disowned her, but life, her life, was just beginning. She walked for hours, her feet bleeding until she reached David's village. A cluster of huts on a hill where goats bleated and smoke curled into the twilight. When David saw her, he didn't ask questions. He took her hand, wiped her tears, and said, "You are home now." His mother, a woman with hands like bark and a heart like honey, welcomed Sofia without hesitation. "A child is a blessing," she said, "and love is the strongest roof." They had little. David earned a few coins tending sheep. They ate ugali and greens, shared one blanket in the cold season, and slept in a room no bigger than a grain sack. But they had each other. And in that love, Sofia found a strength she didn't know she carried. When Sofia gave birth, it was under a full moon. Her daughter, Amara, meaning grace, entered the world with a cry that startled the chickens and made the elders smile. "This child will break chains," one whispered. They named her Amara, and she became their reason. Sofia and David worked from sunrise to sunset. They plowed fields for neighbors, harvested maize, and saved every coin. With their first savings, they bought a cow, a small spotted Ancola with horns like crescent moons. They sold milk, then bought another cow, then a third. They built a small shed, painted it blue, and turned it into a milk stall. Soon villagers came from miles away for their fresh milk and warm smiles. Their hands were calloused. Their backs ached. But their love grew stronger with every sunrise. Word spread. Sofia, the girl who was thrown out like trash, now owns 3 cows and a motorbike. David treats her like a queen. They are very wealthy nowadays. In her crumbling home, Kathy heard the whispers. Her eyes burned with jealousy. She turned to Andrew. "That boy stole our daughter. He ruined her. Now they parade their success like kings." Andrew, broken and jobless after losing his position at the council, was easy to manipulate. So they filed a case. David, 19, accused of defiling a minor. The village buzzed. The elders convened. The court was set beneath the great mukwa tree. Sofia stood beside David, Amara on her hip, her voice steady. "I loved him. I chose him. He gave me shelter when my own blood cast me out." Witnesses came forward, neighbors who saw their work, the midwife who delivered Amara, even the old teacher who said, "Sofia reads every night by candlelight. She wants more for her child." Even the judge, a stern man with a heart of ash, softened. "Love is not a crime. Poverty is not a sin. But cruelty in a home? That is the true shame." The case was dismissed. Kathy stormed off. Andrew hung his head. Ears flowed like the river Moana, quiet, deep, carrying change no one saw coming. Sofia had risen, not with fanfare, not with vengeance, but with quiet strength, brick by brick, drop of milk, seed planted, dream nurtured. She and David had built a life, a huge mansion with a zinc roof that no longer leaked, a dairy business that supplied 3 villages, a daughter, Amara, who wore a crisp school uniform and carried a satchel full of books. And one morning, Sofia drove through Nsulima in her own car, a brand new Toyota, painted sky blue, the same color as the milk shed where it all began. She was no longer the girl who ate crumbs. She was a woman who fed a village. But fate, like the wind, circles back. One sweltering afternoon, as the sun bled gold across the dusty road, Sofia slowed her car. By the side of the path, beneath the shade of a dying acacia, sat an old man. His clothes hung from his body like rags on a scarecrow. His feet were bare, cracked, caked in dust. 2 small children, thin, listless, sat beside him, their eyes hollow with hunger. One held a cracked cup. The other sucked on a dry stalk of grass. Sofia's breath caught. She knew that face. Even beneath the grime, the sunken cheeks, the broken posture, she knew it. Baba, her father, Andrew. Her hands trembled on the wheel. Her heart, once sealed shut by his betrayal, now cracked open. Not with anger, but with a sorrow so deep it felt like mourning. She stepped out. The children flinched. Andrew didn't look up. He stared at the ground, his shoulders shaking. Not with pride, but with shame so heavy it had bent his spine. "Baba," she whispered. His head lifted slowly. His eyes, once so stern, so cold, widened, then filled. "Sofia?" His voice was a croak, broken by years of silence and regret. "Is it really you?" She knelt before him, not as a daughter begging for love, but as a woman offering mercy. "I am here," she said. And then, softly, "What happened?" Andrew's breath trembled. "Kathy. She left, took the money I saved, ran off with a trader from Bulawayo." He looked at the children, his sons, now abandoned. "She didn't even say goodbye." He turned his face away. "I lost my job. No one would hire a frail man like me." Sofia placed a hand on his arm. It was thin, brittle, like the bones of a bird. "And the boys?" she asked. "I can't feed them," he whispered. "I tried," I begged, "but who helps a man who cast out his own child?" A tear fell, then another. "I was wrong," he wept. "Oh, my girl, I was so wrong." He fell to his knees in the dust, right there, in front of his children, in front of the world. "I believed her lies. I let her hurt you. I stood by while you starved, while you cried, while you left with nothing but rags and a broken heart." His voice broke. "I am not your father. I don't deserve to be." The children stared, confused. They had never seen their father cry. But Sofia saw everything. She saw the man who once lifted her onto his shoulders to see the village festival. The man who sang her to sleep with soft mbira tunes. The man who, though weak, was still her baba. And she saw the years of regret carved into his face like riverbeds. Without a word, she reached into her car. Then she took out her phone and called David. "Bring the truck," she said. "We're bringing Baba and the boys home." Andrew looked up, stunned. You would take me in? After what I did?" Sofia knelt again, took his weathered hands in hers, and looked into his eyes that once refused to see her pain. "You were lost," she said gently, "but you are still my father." Tears streamed down his face. He tried to speak, but only sobs came. And then, in the dust of the roadside, under the watchful sky, Andrew did something he had never done before. He bowed his head at his daughter's feet. "Forgive me," he wept. "Please, forgive me." Sofia didn't hesitate. She pulled him into her arms and held him, not as a child seeking approval, but as a woman who had learned that love is not earned by perfection, but given in spite of failure. The wind stilled. The children crept closer. And in that moment, the circle was not broken, but healed. Because sometimes the greatest act of strength is not rising above your pain, but reaching back to lift the hand that once let you fall. Today in Nzulima, people speak of Sofia not as the girl who was cast out, but as the woman who turned pain into power. Her business thrives. Her daughter Amara wears a school uniform and dreams of becoming a doctor. David, now a respected leader in the youth council, still brings her flowers every Sunday. And every morning Sofia walks to the river, not to weep, but to remember. She places a single flower on the water and whispers, "Mama, I made it. We are queens now." The wind carries her words across the hills, and somewhere in the rustle of leaves and the murmur of the river, it sounds like a blessing.